Looking for a surefire sign of U.S. economic recovery? There are lots, but when the labor market really revs up, it's pretty clear where the economy is going. Tomorrow, we'll add another point to the labor juggernaut, and all eyes will be on the data to see if things remain healthy, if poor weather dented progress, or if some other factor has influenced conditions. Thus far, recent numbers have been pretty impressive, on par with past recovery periods. Are things really that good, and will they continue? By any standard, recent U.S. job creation is impressive. Take any moving average of employment gains, and today's numbers stack up very nicely against previous recovery periods. To get a 6-month stretch that rivals today's, with an average monthly gain of 282,000, you have to go way back to the late 1990s. Growth like this has felled the unemployment rate. It peaked at 10% late in 2009, but its recent descent has accelerated, now sitting officially at 5.7%. A couple of decades ago, that would have been considered close to the non-inflationary floor for the unemployment rate, also known as the natural rate. However, by new millennium standards, it still has room. In 2000, it touched 4%, and again in 2007, it briefly drifted in the mid-4s, although the sustainability of these levels without significant wage increases is still in question. Recent job gains even seem to be soaking up the holdouts. The unemployed seem to be able to get new jobs faster, but even those who have been unemployed for multiple weeks, an ugly feature of the post-crisis period, are seeing their unemployment rate dive. The Fed is impressed with recent labor market progress and continues to feature it in its periodic statements on the economy. If the trend continues, there are worries about pressures on the labor market and, by extension, wages. It's hard to believe given the world economy's long post-crisis slug, but this is perhaps the clearest indication that at least the U.S. economy is back. The job market is actually one of the last places in the economy that sees recovery. It's even more the case after a long downturn. Companies will put off a new wave of hiring as long as possible, wanting to be absolutely certain that the economy is back. Typically, that means getting the most possible out of the existing staff, implying a burst of productivity growth before it's obvious that more workers are needed. Then the hiring doesn't just begin, it's a binge. Sounds too good to be true, is it? There is one problem. The long-delayed recovery has left a lot of casualties. One alarming feature of the U.S. job market is unusually low labor force participation. Discouraged by sluggish conditions and 5 years of uncharacteristic gloom, U.S. workers left the labor force in droves. The share of the labor force population either working or looking for work plummeted steadily over the last 6 years and is still close to its recent low. To get a number as low as today's, you have to go back to the late 1970s, a time when female participation was a lot lower on average than it is today. To get a sense of what this means, if participation was back to its pre-crisis average, the current unemployment rate would not be 5.7%, but way up into the double digits at 10.2%. Put more starkly, there are over 7.5 million would-be employees in America who are currently sidelined. Granted, the aging of the population means that a lot of these are older workers who simply will not come back into the ranks. But a fair number are recent graduates, unable to get work right away. While this is a shock, there are upsides. There is still capacity in the U.S. for a lot more job growth without imminent fear of a wage spike. Also, there is renewed hope for discouraged workers. For the economy as a whole, there's the prospect of ranks of newly employed consumers, invigorating the economy with new spending. That's also good news for the world. American consumers directly account for 13 cents of every dollar spent on the planet. We can all hope that America's job juggernaut continues. The bottom line, America's job machine is back in high gear. And against the fears of many, there's still plenty of room for growth. That's great news for economies like ours that are poised to export more stuff America's way. Until next week, I'm Peter Hall.